What's up, amigos? What you're about to watch is a deck tech for Feldon of the Third Path. At the end of the video, I'll talk about some good and bad matchups as well as budget replacements, so be sure to stick around for that. Feldon basically lets you reanimate a creature every turn, but it turns into a sort of ball lightning style artifact creature token that dies at the end step. However, what's unique about his ability is that the original reanimation target stays in your graveyard, so you can target the same dude over and over. You might enjoy this deck if you love value red creatures and adapting your game plan to different threats on the fly. Let's dive in and break it down. Alright, so what's this Feldon deck trying to do? Well, it's not a fast deck. The goal is to play value creatures and grind out incremental advantage over multiple turns. If you're lucky, you can sneak attack to reanimate a Haymaker or go for the classic Blood Moon route for a free win. Otherwise, you win by attacking with random dorks or big flying dragons. You actually don't need to rely on Feldon to win. The fact that he's a must-kill removal magnet can actually be a benefit too if it creates space for your other threats to dominate the game. All right, I wanted to go through a few of these individual cards here. I broke them out into 5 categories. We have like low-level payoffs, more expensive payoffs, discard outlets, removal, and other miscellaneous cards. So let's get into it. Some weird ones here. Goblin Welder. For example, this is a card that you can basically sack it to regenerate anything else. You can sacrifice any goblin to regenerate a creature. And cards like this kind of have a little bit of extra utility with Feldon because you can, if it's a really kind of unique situation, you can kind of do it on their turn, put the token of Churgeon into play, sacrifice it, protect a threat that you already have in play. So that's kind of nice. Goblin Welder, I have this card and Already are kind of the two ways to get artifacts back from your graveyard really easily, and that's just super powerful and threatening on a 1-mana goblin creature. And I have some really nice payoffs like Sundering Titan and Mirror Battlesphere to get back. Direfleet Daredevil is a new one. This card has been overperforming for me lately, and it gives you access to certain effects that mono red wouldn't necessarily have if your opponent has like Council's Judgment or something. Even you could get a counterspell with it if it's in your graveyard and you activate Feldon's ability to make a copy of it. So you have a lot of ways you can bounce creatures with Sting Scourger, get extra attack steps with Combat Celebrant, copy a instant or sorcery spell with my namesake boy, Duelcaster Mage, blow up a land with Avalanche Riders, draw some extra cards with Rowdy Crew, kill some creatures with Flametongue Kavu, make tokens with Pia and Kira and Nalar to kind of go wide or above your opponent. You can get lands, you can blow up artifacts with Ingot Chewer, so really a ton of different effects you can do with Feldon that are kind of creature based, enter the battlefield or leave the battlefield stuff. Once you get into the higher level payoffs, you have Glorybringer here is just a really amazing card in every deck that I put it in, it seems. So another kind of like Flametongue Kavu effect. You can steal any permanent for a turn, snipe their Planeswalker right before the ultimate with Zealous Conscripts. Get a spell back from your graveyard with Goblin Dark Dwellers. I have a few weird cards here. Steel Hellkite, it's kind of nice and on multiple axes because it's a dragon for my Sarkhan's Triumph Dragon Tutor, and it's also an artifact creature for stuff like Goblin Welder, and it has an ability that is kind of relevant too, a way for mono red to blow up enchantments or something like that. So more creature removal, Duplicant, Inferno Titan. You can draw extra cards here with a card like Skyline Despot. You can actually become the Monarch and keep that if you reanimate with Feldon. This card is pretty powerful. Not many people play it, but I think it has a place in Duel Commander in the right deck. And then like Mirror Battlesphere and Sundering Titan, like I already said, and then Begarden Hellkite to just dish out a ton of damage wherever you pretty much feel like it. All right, what are some discard outlets here? We have Wheel of Fortune for the huge discard and draw effect. This deck can empty its hand pretty quick, so that can be net gain for you compared to your opponent. I already mentioned Already. Both of its abilities are good here. Hey, Anger is a great card. If you can, enable it really well. Not only am I mono red with a ton of mountains, but I have a lot of discard outlets, so giving my things haste is really nice. There's a bunch of cards here that are like 2 mana, draw, discard and draw spells. And then Hazard's Monument has actually been pretty nice too, because I have a lot of kind of expensive red creatures, and discarding and drawing is super useful with Feldon. So this card's been pretty good. All right, what do we have in the removal department? I have the usual suspects here, and something you might not typically see that often is Skred. A lot of people have heard of this card from modern Skred red decks. Well, it's good in Duel Commander too. You just gotta have the right mana base for it. Might be tough to assemble in paper, but it's an extremely powerful spell for just 1 mana. Lightning Axe, again, another discard outlet that deals 5 to a creature for just 1 mana, so that's really nice. I rang a few sweepers here, just pretty much Pyroclasm and Fiery Confluence, because their Fiery Confluence at least is really flexible, and it gets around Feldon's. The fact that he's just a tiny little ground creature, you can deal 2 to everything, you deal 1 to everything. It's good against planeswalkers and artifacts. It's just an amazing card all around. And then I even have some Madness cards here, because I have so many discard outlets. Violent Eruption and Fiery Temper can really come in handy and kind of make turn card disadvantage into card advantage, pretty much. Or, if they play Liliana the Veil, just ruin their day. All right, we have some miscellaneous cards here. Skull Clamp, obviously a great card, but even better in this deck, you can put it on a token you make from Feldon, and at the end step, the token sacrifice. So you just draw 2 cards. You keep doing that over and over. Gamble is a nice one too when you're kind of wanting to discard a lot of cards. I mean, you might gamble for a Blood Moon and discard it, which would stink, but I think it's worth the risk in this deck. I mentioned Sarkhan's Triumph earlier. This is a dragon tutor. Mono Red doesn't get very many tutors, but this can get like your Steel Hellkite if that's what you need. Bogarden Hellkite, Glorybringer is usually what I get with it. Pretty nice card. Blood Moon, Magus the Moon, Ruination. These are free win cards. I think you'd be kind of crazy not to run them in a deck like this. Braid of Fire is a kind of a pet card of mine. This is a really cool card designed when Mana Burn was still a thing. Now that it's not, you can just keep adding more and more red to your mana pool during your upkeep. You have to spend it in your upkeep, but Feldon can be used at instant speed. So if you have Feldon in play, just use the mana from Braid of Fire, and it's like free value. Dragon's Claw, this is kind of a meta-dependent card, but there's a lot of Zergo Bellstriker decks running around right now, so if you play this on turn 2, you're going to gain 7, 8, 9, 10 life or even more, because not only do you get a life for every spell you cast, but them as well, so it's pretty nice. And then Gilded Lotus. Normally I wouldn't run a card like this in here, but I have some expensive spells, and the fact that it can tap for 3 is kind of like the perfect number, because Feldon's ability costs 3, so I'm running it in here for that reason. And finally, Sneak Attack. Super powerful card. A lot of people know this card from Cube. I have cards like Bogarden Hellkite, Sundering Titan, and Inferno Titan. These cards are all great sneak attack targets, and the fact that it sacrificed, it's not that big a deal, and it's going to have an effect besides just attacking when it comes into play, and then you can reanimate it with Feldon if the game goes in that way. And then for lands here, I'm pretty basic, a lot of snow-covered mountains, but I have Valakut, which is just kind of a free roll in a mono-red deck with a lot of basics. Scrying Sheets, kind of another cute card I like to run in a lot of my monocolor decks. Again, you need snow lands, but it's nice. And Gaia Reach Sanitarium is kind of a signature card here. It's just it can be nice value. It might come up one out of every 10 games. You can discard a key outlet to reanimate with Feldon. Just don't activate this if they have a Leovold in play. Okay, what are some good matchups for this deck? I think green-based mana dork ramp decks like Selvala, Heart of the Wilds would be a pretty good matchup because you have lots of burn. You can kind of keep them off all their little mana dorks. And dirtily control decks like Atraxa, you have not only have a lot of cheap removal spells that deal 4 damage, but you have burn that can go for their planeswalkers and stuff like that. Even slower aggro or mid-range deck like Rada, red-green monsters, or even partner aggro potentially could be good matchups for this Feldon deck. What are some bad matchups? Well, certain combo decks like Arkham might be tough. Like you can burn them, but You can't attack their hand or counter spells with mono red, so if they have if they can play Arkham with counter backup, you're probably screwed. You're not fast enough. Other control decks like blue-black control in particular, for example, the Scarab God, they can counter spells, exile your graveyard, and wrath your board, so that's pretty rough. And then you have cards like Tormenting Voice or, God forbid, Cathartic Reunion. These cards are just atrocious to get countered, so you got to be really careful when you're playing those cards against blue. Even, Force Spike and Daze and that sort of thing. It's a huge blowout. What are some notable exclusions for this deck? Well, you might notice Kiki Jiki's not in here. I had it in, but it just didn't perform that well and was too easy to kill. I might add it back because it's so synergistic with this deck, and not just for the Zealous Conscripts combo, but that is a nice free win option when it comes up. Itali, Primal Storm. This is a new card. I think it's a little too cute. I'd rather have a more consistent ability on my 6-drop, especially something that can interact with my opponent's board, such as Inferno Titan or Duplicant. You don't have infinite room for 6 drops and up in this deck. Illusionist Bracers. This is a card you see sometimes in the multiplayer Feldon decks. I think it's definitely win more in Duel. You don't need to use Feldon multiple times per turn for it to be good. And finally, Deal Broker. I really like this card. It's the only reason it's not in here is it's not implemented on X-Mage yet, so you can't actually add it in there. But it's a colorless Merfolk looter basically, so that is something this deck is definitely interested in. All right, what are some budget replacements for cards in this deck? The deck's pretty cheap overall, but I know I saw a few expensive cards when I was looking at prices here. Rekindling Phoenix apparently is like $35. Well, this card is kind of cool, but nothing that irreplaceable. You could put it in like Cyclops Gladiator. I actually had that card in here for a while, but it's better than you think. I think it's underrated. It can do some work. Wormcoil Engine here. It's about $20, I guess. You could replace that with the Itali that I just trash talked like a minute ago, if you wanted to. If you want another 6-drop heavy hitter, and then Blood Moon. Magus of the Moon, these type of cards, they're very unique, but if you wanted to go the land death route, you could put something like Boil in, or Flash Fires, depending on your local metagame. A free win is still a free win. And then finally, Sneak Attack. Again, really unique card. I thought Through the Breach was cheaper, but apparently that's like a $50 card somehow. So you can't really make an equivalent swap out for this, but you could put in a card like Greater Gargadon. Has a lot of synergy in this deck. You can sacrifice the tokens you make with Feldon, or like a random PN Kieran Nalar Thopter token or something like that. Okay, that's it for now. I already posted a few gameplay videos of Feldon. If you want to see him in action, just click on the playlist button for that. And please subscribe to the channel if you got some value out of this video and would like to be informed when I post a new video every week, or if you just want to support DCM. I'd really appreciate it. As always, I have the deck list posted in the video description too if you want to look at that in detail. Thanks for watching.